I'm good. Yep. Diana, when Heather starts, can you just some lights off? Yeah, please.
All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. It is Monday, February 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Welcome to the finance meeting, presentation of the superintendent's budget for the 25-26 school year. We do have quorum. Mr. Pia and Mr. Brandon are joining us as well, as this is a finance committee meeting. Just a couple of notes. I've talked to most of everybody on the board. I'm excited to hear the presentation. Personally, I'm excited to hear what I think is a proposal of stability and building blocks and starting over. We tackled an ESSER cliff last year, thanks to Ms. Borges, and hopefully this is a new starting point. And with that, I will turn it over to you to share with us your thoughts and ideas. It's a little hot in here tonight.
It's comfortable. So, before I begin, I just wanted to take a moment to thank each of you for your dedication and your support over the past year. Your work is really invaluable, and I appreciate the time, the effort, and the insight you all bring all year long. I also understand that sometimes in Stratford, being part of a finance committee feels like an expectation to adjust or modify a proposed budget. However, I want to validate the work you do all year, and I want to emphasize that it's because of that work that my team is able to propose the budget we are putting forward tonight. So I want to normalize the idea that a finance committee can be behind and support a superintendent's budget as proposed. Together, through thoughtful collaboration, we're going to present a budget to you that is both responsible and sustainable. So now I will begin. Tonight, I am proud to present the proposed budget for the Stratford Public Schools for the 2025-2026 school year. A budget that's not just about numbers, but about vision, growth, and stability. At its core, this budget builds a foundation for a stronger, sustainable future for our schools, our students, and our community. Our focus is clear: to honor the commitments we made through our contract negotiations, to preserve the total number of full-time equivalent FTE positions, and to ensure our educators and staff feel supported and valued. This budget invests in the heart of our schools, our educators, staff, and our students. While it still establishes a strong foundation that'll support Stratford's growth for years to come. It is not just a budget, it's a commitment to advancement, to excellence, and to ensuring that the Stratford Public Schools is positioned to thrive. So let's walk through this together and see how these priorities come to life in the proposed plan. Budget overview. The proposed budget for the 2025-2026 school year is $132,953,937, which represents a 2.66% increase over the current budget of $129,502,725. This modest increase reflects our commitment to honoring negotiated contracts, addressing essential needs while avoiding reductions in staff positions. This budget focuses on maintaining our current operations and services during this critical time for our district. By prioritizing fiscal responsibility and program stability, we aim to ensure a strong foundation for continuous improvement and student success. Our major budget drivers. Our budget increase for the 2025-2026 school year is driven primarily by three factors: wages, benefits, and special education services. Certified and non-certified staff wages account for $4.2 million increase, or 3.2%, which reflects negotiated contracts and the need to remain competitive. Benefit costs will rise by $2 million, or 1.5%, due to increased healthcare and retirement expenses. Special education services, a critical area of focus for our district, will increase by $1.2 million, or 0.9%. These investments underscore our commitment to supporting staff and meeting the diverse needs of our student population. In our pie chart, it is clear. Salaries is the largest section. Benefits, tuition, transportation, and purchased professional services, which are the services that provide your in-district programs for special education students. This makes up the largest portion of our budget asks. Another important area for us to touch on is transportation. Regular student transportation costs are projected at $2.6 million, 3.16% increase. Special education transportation will total $3.4 million, a 4.56% increase. The total proposed transportation budget is $6,058,990, an increase of 3.95% over the previous year. These adjustments reflect rising transportation costs, but they also ensure that every student, whether participating in general education or a specialized program, has safe and reliable access to school. Transportation remains a critical component of our commitment to equitable access and support. Special education tuition is a key area for you to focus on. You're going to see a significant decrease in your budget book based on our budget methodology. Special education tuition costs have decreased significantly by 24.57%, and this reflects a strategic shift in our budgeting methodology to budget net. This includes $3.3 million designated for Connecticut public special education schools, $4.8 million for Connecticut non-public special education schools. So for the 2025-2026 school year, the total proposed budget for special education tuition is $8.2 million. This revised approach allows us to allocate resources more efficiently, reducing the initial expenditures while ensuring flexibility to meet students' needs as they arise. To address potential fluctuations in cost, we will request the excess cost funding from the state when necessary. This aligns with our continued advocacy alongside other towns and schools across Connecticut for the state to fully fund and support students with exceptionalities by enhancing the excess cost grant and capping what out-of-district placements can charge. Through this strategy, we balance financial responsibility with our unwavering commitment to providing high-quality, individualized services for students with specialized needs while advocating for systemic improvements to benefit all communities. The final area I want to touch on is the utilities. Electricity costs are going to rise by 16.6% due to market rate adjustments. Gas heating expenses are projected to decrease by 25.42% as a result of energy efficiency initiatives. Water costs will increase slightly by 0.56%. Our proposed utilities budget for the upcoming fiscal year is $2.5 million, reflecting a 2.33% increase. These figures highlight our effort to balance operational needs with cost-effective energy management strategies. We are continuously exploring ways to reduce energy consumption and to enhance sustainability across the district. As I stated in the beginning, this proposed budget represents more than numbers. It reflects our commitment to fiscal responsibility, academic excellence, and the well-being of our students and staff. By prioritizing stability, making strategic investments, we are laying the groundwork for sustainable growth and preparing Stratford Public Schools to meet both present needs and future challenges. This budget is the foundation upon which we will build a brighter, more prosperous future for our schools, our community, and most importantly, our students. The next steps include a thorough review by the Board Finance Committee, collaborative budget workshops to incorporate valuable feedback, and the final approval by the full board before the submission to the town. I again want to sincerely thank all of you for your partnership, your dedication to the Stratford Public Schools, and your shared commitment to our mission of providing an inspiring and inclusive education for every student. Your support is critical as we work together to achieve this vision. I welcome your questions and comments and ideas as we move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Borges. Appreciate it. So let's open the floor for discussion, questions, comments, thoughts, from anyone. I have something to start with quickly, if nobody minds. Can you just go back to special education tuition for a minute? And just go over that one more time.
Sure. So towns do it different ways, right? But as you guys are all aware, there's excess cost funding that goes to the town, okay? We believe there's a lot of pressure to cap what out-of-district placements can charge, and we think there's gonna be a lot of fluctuation in special education. So we're taking a conservative approach, knowing we have the excess cost funding that we can go for. So we reduced this budget by $3 million, and we will request that money through the excess cost funding as we need it. We may need less than $3 million if they cap things or do things appropriately. We may need more. We don't know, right? So it is a year in which we are advocating for special ed funding. And we are saying to the state, we expect you to be accountable to that funding, and then we will request that funding from the town.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Cormier.
Thanks, thank you, Ms. Borges and Ms. Mangini. On page 9, I'm just curious, object number 560, the tuition is, it's in our books. The tuition is $8,899,000.
What page are you looking at this?
Page 9, it's the proposed budget summary.
Mm-hmm.
So the tuition there is about $700,000 different than the tuition that was just shown on your slide. Do you know what, can you offhand tell me what else is included in that tuition on the summary?
Sure.
Thank you.
Actually, if you look in your budget book under the 500s, you'll see that it does not only on that line include special education, but there's also regular education tuition included, and that makes up the difference.
Magnet schools.
Right, magnet schools,
There it is,
BOAG
82,
schools.
yeah.
It's actually on page 70.
8.
Thank you.
I spoke just specifically to special education,
Yep,
because that's
I
where
see
the
it.
excess cost applies.
Thank you. 682,500.
We're gonna go more in depth under all these, so I can ask questions when we get to the 500 series.
Yes, the
Okay.
intent in the past has been to, from this point, go through each section of the budget over the next few budget sessions, our workshops, and we will start with Wednesday evening, looking at the salaries, benefits, and the curriculum budget. So yes, you will have a chance to.
I will say though, I really feel this is a reasonable and appropriate request. And there are towns that don't go through a bazillion budget workshops. If you feel this is an appropriate budget and you have the appropriate budget book, I would simply say, I would like you to not waste all of that time. We have a strategic operating plan and other things we need to work on. If I was asking for a large amount and I felt like you had to really dig in, I would be in support of that, but I think we're proposing a very stable budget, and I'm hoping we can approve that as soon as possible, so we can move on to other work we have to do.
Well, if you have questions, if you know some
I
of the
was
questions,
just
let's start with it.
curious about the transportation being up. The redistricting was supposed to lower our transportation costs, but we're still up 3.95%, so I was hoping you could talk more to why the transportation costs went up, and I I know one of the things we talked about with the redistricting was offering more transportation, but that was if we were saving money, so.
I would say the increase in Pam, feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, has nothing to do, we actually do have less transportation due to redistricting, but the cost of transportation went up. So the cost of special education transportation went up. And although I think Pam did a fantastic job with Durham negotiating with them, we still have an increase from Durham that we had to take on. And I think it was a modest increase in comparison to
It was,
some
it's
other
reflected on
places.
page 74, it's about a 3% increase, so to your point, Joe, there is not a significant increase to regular transportation. With redistricting, we're hopeful that, and we had said that all along with scenario 1, that we were hopeful that we would at least be status quo with buses. But nevertheless, you'll see the more significant special ed transportation increase at 4.56%.
Ms. Turner, or Ms. Carol, maybe?
Speaking on that same line of transportation, I know it has been in the works through the athletic review and then through some of our special education programs to get to 12 passenger handicapped accessible vans. Or is that something that we've been able to attain? Or is that something that's been accounted for in here?
It was a little bit more challenging than we initially thought to determine the proper vehicles, because our hope is that our coaches would be able to drive them with special licensing. So a long bit of information I'm going to try to shorten and be more succinct, but nevertheless, we have finally determined what our needs are, and we are currently in the process of working with the town purchasing agent to put out an RFP and do a formal bid, because unfortunately the state was not able to provide us with a bid that we could go off of for the type of vehicles that we needed. So we are in that process, and we're hoping to be out to bid, I think, next week.
That's under this year's budget.
It's under this year's capital budget
Capital.
for the town, yes.
Ms. Turner.
So a large driver of the increase in transportation is due to special ed costs, not just the standard.
It's actually the majority is special transportation. It's getting harder and harder to find transportation companies, and their prices, they're not monitored, similar to the out-of-district placements, so, they increase the prices to transport our students with exceptionalities.
As they see fit, there's no special criteria.
And again, some of our students are transported on Durham, which is wonderful. It's the specialized transportation to the out-of-district placements and the specialized transportation, to other locations that are really becoming a challenge.
So if the state does decide to put some kind of caps on that, that could possibly bring some.
They've talked about a couple different things, so not just caps for the transportation, but setting it up so that districts can work together more collaboratively, setting up transportation and regionalization a little bit so that we can work if we both are transporting students in a certain direction to be more cost effective.
And then, salaries, so our teacher's salary, I think our recently negotiated contract was a 4% increase this year.
Well, quite frankly, it's not just a flat percent. Don't forget that there's a lot of step movement.
Okay.
So it's significantly higher than that.
So the 5.63 is reflective of that, that newly negotiated contract?
All of the contracts, actually.
Okay.
It's
So
a
there are no new
combination.
positions, so with this budget, we are maintaining all staff?
Maintaining
Current
all
positions?
staff, no new positions, but it is the 3 negotiated contracts.
Okay.
So we didn't just negotiate 1 this year, we negotiated 3.
So, and this was a bigger year in the negotiation.
I think so.
Yeah, it was some of our bigger, obviously, the teachers union is is our biggest
Right.
contract we negotiated, has the most impact on our budget since it is the majority of our staff.
But their first year increase was bigger than years to come.
Yes.
So this is not exactly, but this kind of like a one-time hit for us, this 5.63. Next year, hypothetically should be less because they.
Well, they still move on the step, so
Yeah.
I can't say that for sure, but that's really an average. I don't think that's really a terrible increase overall. It's usually between 4% and 6% each year.
And I think it's a needed increase, and I think that it shows our ability to work with our unions. And in addition to that, yeah, it may be a less step increase, but remember what I said, this is the foundation. So next year, we may be coming to you with a couple additional positions. Right? Build a foundation so that that foundation can grow.
Yeah.
And I think Stratford needs a solid year where we don't cut, we're not reducing, we're having a solid foundational year for which to grow. And that's my hope this year.
And I do agree, I mean, the contract was the negotiation was a well-negotiated contract for both sides. I'm not disputing that piece of it, I'm just trying to get a grasp on
Yeah.
how the numbers lay out. And what
There's
we
no
can expect.
additional positions.
And as we've discussed in the past, one of the agreements was staggered to another year, so we won't be negotiating 3 contracts every time we negotiate 3 contracts in the program, so.
But we will be aggressively going after grants so that we can increase positions through grant funding. So we will be aggressively, going after those grants the state says may be available, especially for expanding your in-district programs.
So, well, we've been here, this I guess is our 4th budget, and, when I was on the council 7 years there, I didn't pay attention much in the middle, but I think this is probably one of the most realistic, budget requests going forward. I mean, from my perspective, I don't, and again, this is we addressed the Esser Cliff last year, we did a lot of the hard work last year, we reorganized central office, we did a lot of the work, and that kind of bears fruit here in this budget. And because we did all the hard work last year and made some of those difficult decisions, we're able to come, I mean, I'd be happy myself personally, just, approve this budget tonight and moving forward. I don't know that we're gonna see much change
I think,
from here.
we would love that, but again, I need you to feel confident and, I know each of you has different trusts in different people, and I do believe that between our whole team, between Diana, Phil, Ms. Mangini, and myself, we are presenting an honest and transparent budget to you. And we would love for it to move forward.
Well, I'll just say you guys have done an amazing job this year, and if it was the will of the board, I would support us accepting this budget as proposed and moving on to bigger and better things from there, but that's just my opinion.
Mr. Brandon, do you have a question?
It's, $3 million is the assumption on excess costs?
So our excess cost breakdown based on the formula should be 4.7 million.
So this budget is 4.7 lower than.
No, it's 3
So
million
that's
lower
it's the
because
assumption.
I'm assuming they're not fully funding excess
So
costs.
last year, what did the town receive for revenue in excess costs?
3.5?
3.5, so all things being equal, the risk there is, you're budgeting lower, so you're more conservative than 3.5.
Being conservative, yes.
But this budget would be $3 million higher if we didn't move the revenue or gross to net.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And the town's okay with the loss of $3 million revenue. So but the $3 million is, the point I want to make, it seems a very conservative approach. It's not going to 4.7 where
No.
it's unfunded, that would be, I think, too much of a risk.
It's too much of a risk and you don't know the percentage that the state is gonna give us, right? So at the very lowest percentage they've ever given is 3 million for us right now,
So that's,
based on ours.
we budgeted the floor,
I did.
but the volatility, if it doesn't materialize, is now on the board side, not on the town side,
Yes.
but that's the calculated risk the
Calculated
administration is
risk.
taking.
Yes.
Which is the one most districts, as you well know, actually do budget net of their excess cost grant.
And then, is it fair to say at page 78, that budget that's 8.2 would be 3 million higher, is that where you're manifesting
Yes.
that number?
Yep, in the private out of districts.
Mr. O'Brien, did you have a question?
Appreciate all the hard work you all put into this. Happy to see that there are currently no cuts to programs or staff in this. However, one of many things I have on my list here, is that's been talked about a lot is the expansion and the need to expand our CTE programs. and that is not in here. So I know those are some issues, I know with the space for culinary classes, some of the medical classes. My other concern is over, math scores. Specifically, Flood Middle School is on the state watch list for its scores going down. So our scores are going down and we're not adding any additional support to help that. And then lastly, I guess I would just request if the board could have a list of, those are just two of the things that I know of from conversations, but I would ask for a list of what the principals' wants and needs were, so that they have a better grasp on their buildings and what they need and what has been lacking and what has needs additional support before we move forward without.
And I can address a couple of those now. So I'm gonna go to flood. So flood is on a watch, not for the scores this year, but for previous scores. We did put interventions into place this year. They do have dedicated math interventionists. So we are expecting and anticipating we're gonna have growth there. So when you get on a watch list, just remember that the state is always a year behind on their scores that they're choosing to use. So we do feel we're doing an appropriate job there. I love CTE, and I do want to see it expand, but I think like other things and programs, those expansions can come through grants. And I do firmly believe that we can continue to seek out grants, and we also have things in our capital budget that are not proposed in this budget in order to make our facilities more ready for those expansions, which they're not. So, it would be great, we love culinary, right? But there's only so much space and so many classes you can run in the culinary program until we have some expansions and changes in that area. There's not a room for those to grow. So we do love all those things. We are happy to provide to you the list of wants from our principals. I've also met with the principals and met during an administrative group where I've explained to them that we do want to revisit their new initiatives. We want to revisit it if we get additional alliance money, if we add, other grant funding, or if they can figure out something they want to restructure in order to achieve those. Stratford has never had a foundational budget, and as long as I've been here, there have been cuts year after year. And until you can have a foundational budget in which you are not reducing staff, we're not going to be able to move forward and build. And we have pretty frank conversations. And if we put something forward to the town that they cannot sustain, it's gonna come back in a way that we have to make unnecessary cuts. So this budget, I think everybody can get on board with. We're taking a calculated risk that we believe in. And we are providing what we need for our schools to have this foundation. So I do love all those things, and I wish I had a magic wand to make everything grow immediately. But what Stratford has never had and what we desperately need is a foundational budget in which we are not going through a year with reductions and cuts. That's my feeling. But again, we're here and we will do all your budget workshops, but we really believe in this. And we believe that this is what Stratford needs in order for us to be propelled forward.
I think we've talked a lot about the CTE over the past couple of months and a lot of these programs, and I think there's a lot of creative ways that we can get the town involved and local businesses and people involved in those programs, and possibly grant money down the line to help those programs along and make them larger is probably the wrong word, but they will grow on their own if we provide stability.
And we have to have strategic planning for them to grow, right? So if we can have a foundational budget, then a team can be put together next year to work on the strategic growth of the CTE. But we, adding more money to it now without a concrete plan. And I've had these arguments, I'm having with Mike, he loves CTE, he wants us to expand it, we gotta put the brakes on, things need to be planned appropriately. We also are an alliance district and we are focusing on a lot of change. This district needs to be able to work on what we're working on right now and continue to move in that direction without a lot of new right now. We need to not have less, but we also need to not be piling on. We need to be able to do better with what we are doing.
Ms. Turner?
So, and to that point, I think Thursday night, we're gonna have our planning committee meeting. And I'm hoping that part of the discussion will surround some renovations at least at Bunnell, that might allow us to expand the CT. We did last year as part of the capital improvement plan, where the town funded a feasibility study for Bunnell. But also my hope is that, unlike the governor's proclamation, where he will be flat funding Alliance District this year, they will put additional funds into the Alliance, which, you know, the Alliance District has programs, but it also has positions. And as we see in our salary line item, those salaries go up on an annual basis. If we don't get at least a minimal increase in our Alliance District funding, then we have two choices, either to cut some of the positions or to, and I don't know whether we could do this, and not pay the raises. So hopefully the government, and hopefully there'll be enough funding there so we can reallocate some of that and possibly, you know, start the move towards some expanded CT, but.
And that's part of my point, so we have a lot of other work to do. This regular ask of a budget is step one. We have grants that are gonna have to be written. We have to redo our Alliance grant. We need to look at what increases we're gonna get. Those numbers are all gonna come in March and May, and we have work to do. And possibly in February. They said February, but I'm not.
Never happened before.
I'm not I'm not thinking that's gonna happen on time. We just have a lot of work to do. And truthfully, I'll dig into anything you guys want in this budget, but this is a solid foundational budget, and we can work on everything else afterwards. That's my feeling. And I think Pam echoes my feeling.
We definitely have put a lot of work into this, and I will say this is my 5th budget here in Stratford. And until I came to Stratford, I have never had to reduce positions like we've had to do here. And it's heartbreaking, and it's disruptive, and it certainly doesn't help morale out there, because everyone is very uncomfortable each budget season. So to be able to at least start at this point, where we are possibly sending a budget over to our town leaders that does not cut any of our FTEs, would be wonderful. And I do feel very comfortable. I think Heather has always joked that she doesn't like dealing with big numbers, and she has grown so much since she has taken on this acting superintendent position that she really knows this budget inside out. And obviously, as a team, we have spent a lot of time looking into these numbers, and as Heather pointed out, talking to administrators and making certain that they felt supported with what we were putting forward.
I do have a question. Somewhat to Mike's point, with the federal instability of funding grants, do we have a plan for that? I know Title I is a federal grant. I think it comes through the state, but we rely heavily on Title I school funding, free and reduced lunch funding, our Alliance grant funding, which is a DEI program. So I was hoping that we could have some more clarity on that,
Yeah, and
especially
actually,
approving this and saying that we're gonna rely more on grants.
I do think those are conversations that we're gonna continue to have, but I will say we did receive notification saying Title I and IDA were not going to be touched. Those should be fine. Just so you have, you know, good understanding, our increasing educator diversity and Alliance money, that's not federal, so those aren't things that are gonna be shut off. Things that we need to worry about, 21st century, right? That's a nice, wonderful extra. That is a federal grant, so we do need to make sure we keep a close eye on that. And our federal stop grant that we run our AIP program with. Again, we did receive notification that that one is not being shut down, and I feel confident due to the nature of schools and the safety needed, that those safety federal grants are not gonna be touched. They're not necessarily targeting DEI, right? They're targeting keeping our schools safe. So we don't have as many, Jill, that we need to panic about, because a lot of them are coming directly, you know, from the state, and that funding is gonna be there. And I felt much better when we received the notification saying IDA and Title I were not on the list of affected.
And I think I might just add to your point, Jill, when we talk about trying to do more with grant funding, we don't mean the existing grants. We realize that those are pretty taxed at this point, But we do, as a group, and definitely with Joanna at the head, who's dealing with our grants right now, we are constantly looking for new grant opportunities and jumping on the wagon when we do see them. So hopefully, cautiously optimistic that there might be some more out there that will support and help us get
And we
some
were able
of
to
these new
secure some
ideas.
this summer. You know, we secured additional LEAP grant funding, and that is for our students that are chronically absent. You know, we secured more health clinic funding. And so we will be going after everything that we see and continuing to leverage those dollars for growth for us. And it's not that I don't want to ask for everything for Stratford, right? But I really truly believe if we could possibly get through one foundational year, the growth is the future. And that's our job, is to present to you what we feel is best, and that's what we did. And truthfully, we took all the feedback all year long from everybody, and we thought and looked at things that would make your head spin.
I have typically not been one who's just said, accept the superintendent's, or fully fund the superintendent's ask.
Oh, I know.
This is 1 year where I'm gonna say, let's fully fund the superintendent's ask, let's go for it. And let's listen to the professionals and move ahead.
Are there any further questions? Mr. Cormier?
I mean, I would be comfortable looking at this over the next couple of days and having another, and evaluating the possibility of cutting our workshops down on Wednesday, because we have 3 more scheduled, so at least taking a deeper dive, looking closer, and having one more day at least to ask more questions. You know, we had this Friday night,
So
so.
we would appreciate that.
Mhm.
We could take it one at a time.
Yeah.
But not, I would be comfortable today, but I would be comfortable shortening.
No, I don't
Because I think
think
we're closer, it's a bit different than last year. But I do have another question, it's more detail, since I'm just looking at it. I'm looking at administrative salaries. It looks like an AP was added to Academy or Johnsonhurst?
So, not active, that's your split position.
Okay,
She's been doing it all year, we did that at the end of last year's budget. So that, remember, we reduced some of your assistant principals, and then we split one of them, so Wilcoxon gets her AP days, and Johnson gets her AP days. And again, how we shift and work our, no one's looking to reduce anymore, but how we shift and work may change based on the number of students in the redistricting. But we're not looking to reduce it, right? We still need those APs.
I thought Wilcoxon was splitting with Franklin for some reason, I don't know.
They used to back in the day. Maybe you're remembering way back when.
Ms. Coffey, would you have more?
No, I'm gonna echo, Mr. Cormier's comments. I understand reducing maybe the amount of budget workshops needed, but, to just move forward without another meeting or two to digest everything, have a little more information, and ask questions to receive some of the information I've asked for, I'm not okay with it.
Maybe not to question, but to clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
clarification.
definitely think we need
May
to
I
have
just,
at least one
I'm
more.
sorry, may I just request that once again, if you do see any questions between now and Wednesday night and you'd like to email them to us, we can always provide you with a more comprehensive answer. Of course, we'll be prepared to do our best to answer anything that you happen to see that evening, but it is always helpful if you can do that.
You're not
We can start
interested,
already.
you're not interested in a, like it's a,
You're testing, you want to test my memory, right? Okay. There's
And
a
we
lot
can
of
start a
numbers
running
on
list
that.
again, like we did
Yeah,
last year, and
exactly.
then we can go over those in public when we.
And you know your budget workshops, so if there are, ones that you want to combine, shoot Ms. Fangini an email that says, the utilities is fine, we don't need to hear about that. But we do wanna hear more about this to make sure that you're getting what you need, and we're also not wasting anyone's time. So if there are areas you're totally confident in, great.
Maybe you can gauge that based on some of the questions you guys received as to who.
Yeah, listen, we'll do as many as you guys want. We'll do all of them if that's what you want. But like I said, we have a lot of other stuff we'd like to get to.
Are there any further questions this evening? Mr. Pia, Mr. Brandon, you're comfortable over there right now?
All good so far.
Okay. Okay, well, if there's, I was just gonna ask for a motion to adjourn, if everybody's comfortable and ready to move forward.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We will resume on Wednesday evening.